Hey guys, I wanted to make this video because I am currently working through something and I thought it would be helpful to share my process with you. So a few days ago, I had a situation happen in my life where I got triggered. Triggers are emotional flashbacks. So, of like unresolved pain or, anyways, this current situation happened in my life and I had this trigger where like I responded in the moment. I kind of like froze. When you get triggered, there are 4 responses that we can have: fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. Flight, we want to get up and out. Fawn, we want to fix the other person so that we can be better. That's a little bit with codependency. Freeze, we just freeze in the moment, we can't move. Fight, we want to fight back, get defensive. These are responses that we can have from a triggered state, or we can go get healing with the Lord, heal the proper healthy way. But anyways, I had a trigger rise and I froze, and I had like in the moment I realized that I was triggered and I just kind of put it aside. I was like, I'm not gonna deal with this right now, it's not the right time or place. But I just packed it away and then went on with my day, and I didn't realize just how much or how big of a trigger that was, how impactful that was on me, until as the day went on, I started to notice myself kind of disengage with people. And even at night, like I found myself wanting to isolate, disconnect, avoid. I also found myself sitting on the couch, emotional eating, and I had this like underlying anxiety rising within me. And when I was sitting on the couch at night and I kept feeling this anxiousness and I was like eating, it's really important to know like your coping mechanisms, your defaults, like what you do. I'm always praying to God and asking Him to help me, but there are some actionable steps that are important for us to take when we do have a trigger, if we want to heal with Christ. And so we can't just pray all the time, because that's not just praying, God, just take this away from me. That doesn't always heal the root of what was triggered. And a lot of times triggers are being emotional flashbacks. It's something from the past, so you kind of got to dig in a little bit. What does that look like? It means like asking self-reflective questions. Why am I feeling this way right now? What is this anxiety inside of me? What happened that caused me to feel this way? What happened in my life that caused me this trigger? And when I found myself on the couch late at night, just like emotionally eating and having this anxiety, it was almost as if like I hadn't even fully realized that earlier in the day I had been triggered. And I didn't realize sometimes we can have little triggers and just move past them, and that's it. Not even like, doesn't even faze us that much. But this was a big one. So I started praying at night when I realized my coping mechanism. Oh my gosh, I'm overeating right now. I'm emotionally eating. It's important to know like what you do when you find yourself triggered. Do you avoid? Do you overwork? Do you overshop? Like what? We all have different ways we can cope with pain and trauma or triggers. So I found myself doing this habit. I'm like, oh, wait a second. This happens when I get triggered. So I found myself emotionally eating. And I started to pray to God. God, what happened to me? What got me into this state? What triggered me? And I start backtracking. Okay, I was feeling completely fine when I woke up this morning. I was feeling connected to God and full in the Spirit and just wonderful and peace in my heart and soul. What was it? And then God showed me, oh, it was this situation. You got triggered and you froze. And so it was like he was showing me that at night. I still felt like I didn't get to fully process. So the next day, I start to reflect on it, and a lot of the emotion starts coming up and out. I realized, oh, this situation in my present life made me feel all of these really overreactive emotions about the situation that were really because in the past something happened that was really traumatic for me, and this current situation was reminding me of that. And I was feeling all this sadness surface and this emotion and these fears surface of like, oh my gosh, this is reminding me so much of my past, and I don't want this situation to reoccur. So all this emotion was coming out. I was crying a lot this day. And then I was seeking God, and I was feeling better and praying, and I was allowing the emotion to come out. But I wasn't fully processing, just like having some layer of it get healed. You see, sometimes when we get triggered, we can have layers, these layers of trauma, layers of healing, and I was just having some layers be released. Tears are healing. Tears feel amazing to get out. So I was like getting out some of them and talking to God about why did that trigger me so much? Why is this such a big deal to me? Why does this hold so much weight? What am I afraid of? What am I believing? What lies am I believing? So I start writing some of these things down, but I don't like fully engage in this process the whole day. I give myself some time to do it, and I'm feeling better, tending to my heart's needs. And then the next day happens, and I still feel like I'm getting little revelation and little breakthrough and little healing. But, work comes about again, and I'm going through my day, doing my schoolwork, and seeking God and doing well. But I still feel like there's a little bit of underlying anxiety. Like, I'm getting some healing and some breakthrough, but there's still more in this process. So some of the things I do were I shared with my husband, and he prayed over me. That made me feel better. It made me feel good to be heard and get to share some. One of the other things that God showed me was that I needed to take some time to stop what I was doing, set aside my obligations to tend to my own heart's needs, and give myself some love and compassion. So I went for a walk. When you walk, you use your left and right brain. So it helps you to process through information. It's a great way to process if you're working through something. After that, I had a picnic, and I brought my journal, I brought my Bible, and I just spent some time just writing out all my thoughts, and the emotion came out, and I was just being outside in nature with the sun. Like, those increase your dopamine levels, so that's another way that's a healthy thing to do to process. Ooh, my hand's shaking. And I felt so much better after this. Another thing that God had me do was that night I went to a group, and I shared with them what I was working through to get some biblical advice and some counsel. That helped me. And then today is the next day from that time. And I've unpacked a lot of that trigger, and I'm feeling much better. But I still have just a little bit of that underlying anxiety. Almost like when you have pain surface, you could feel like this empty space inside of you. Especially like when you are crying, like you're releasing, so you kind of feel emptiness, you gotta fill back up in the spirit too. Fill back up with love and compassion and God's presence. So I'm not feeling 100% full just yet. I have to do a little bit more processing. Kind of like my glass is almost back to being full where I could overflow, but not there yet. I have a little bit of residue. And so I'm making this video to share with you my process as I'm working through a trigger. I want to share that with you because we all have to work through our own stuff. It's easier to avoid. It's easier to numb out. It's easier to disconnect. But authenticity is a very high core value to me. And if I'm just voiding and numbing out what I'm really feeling deep down, then I'm actually just pretending that I'm okay, pretending to put on a mask and smile like, oh, everything's great, when really deep down, I'm working through some stuff. And I don't want to be like that. I want to be so in tune with my reality, with my heart, and authentic to who I truly am and how I feel. Because I spent so much of my life disassociating. And I don't want to do that anymore. So yeah, that is where I'm at. That's the process I'm in. And I share this as a word of encouragement for any of you who are going through something. Know that you're not alone. We all have seasons and moments where we work through stuff. And how do you guys process through your triggers? What are your go-to coping mechanisms? How do you heal with the Lord? I would love to hear. And if you guys need any prayer, go ahead and reach out and pray for me too. I love you guys.
You calm my raging seas. You